While we are just getting off of 3 weeks with consecutive daytime temperatures reaching over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, with nighttime lows only dipping into the 80s. We haven't had a single day in the 70s in over a month. Today, it's 75 degrees. I think this cold front moving in is going to increase fish activity because they're going to be able to come up shallow and eat for the first time in over a month. And I've got this beautiful pond that we have no idea if there's still fish in here. Over a decade ago, they stocked fish in here, and there were some divers in there rescuing a car that went off the road that said there's some huge catfish, but no one knows if they're still there. That's what I'm gonna do. I have no pole restrictions, I have no bait limits, so I'm gonna set up all of my rods down this bank and see if I can catch something. The first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk the bank to see if there's any bait fish because I wanna use that first. I do have some shad and other baits that I brought, but it's best to use what's already in the pond. So let's walk around. There's some bubbles over there. I think I'm gonna cast at that real quick. I brought my ultralight as I walk around, just so as I see things, I can cast at them. The water's pretty murky. There has been quite a bit of rain through here, so the water levels are high but dropping. So I think these are prime conditions. There we go. Tiny little sunfish. There's life in here. There's a bunch of really tiny sunfish over here along this dam, but they're almost too small to eat this little 16th ounce rooster tail, so I'm gonna keep looking. There are 3 key structural components to this pond. There's the dam, there is the gradual gradient from about 1 foot at that end to about 15 feet at the dam end, and then there's this drainage pipe right here. I'm gonna fish around here for a second. I've already seen some movement. I'm gonna try the shallow end, and then I'm gonna set up. There we go, that's a nice fish. All right, there are tons of sunfish right here in this pipe, so I think that I'm gonna move on. Here are some fresh deer tracks and heron tracks in the shallow mud. All right, tons of bluegill up in the shallows over here. I don't wanna harass them too much because I might need them for bait later. So now I have a good idea that there is a ton of fish in here, at least there's a ton of bait fish, so let's hope that translates to a lot of predatory fish like catfish and bass. All right, let's go get set up. All right, we are all set up. I've got 6 rods out with a variety of baits. I've got 2 with worms, 2 with shad, 1 with a live bluegill, and 1 with a dead bluegill that I caught from this pond. Now all we do is wait. The 2 rods on the ends, that end and the far end, I have bells on just in case something hits those and I don't see it. But otherwise, I'm just gonna sit in the middle of all of them and just watch. There's been some action. I see the line moving a little bit. There's a bunch of bubbles on the surface of the water. All right, that was a false alarm. A lot of times with this many bluegill, they'll actually peck at the line itself on the surface of the water, and it can kind of make you think that you have a bite when you don't. Well, while I was waiting, I decided to just throw that rooster tail. And there we go, little white crappie. It's a decent sized one, and I had no idea there were even crappie in this pond, so that's pretty cool. Well, I went down to the shallow end over here to just see if there is any more like big bluegill or anything, and I just caught a catfish. And I know that the water down there is like a foot, so that kind of changes my strategy. It was small, it was probably about 2 or 3 pounds, but it fought really hard. And now I think this small rod with the earthworm might have had the bait get stolen, so I'm gonna check that now. All right, the worms didn't get taken, but I'm gonna adjust where my baits are. The wind is picking up a little bit, which makes it kind of hard to see if there's any activity on any of the rods because they're kind of bouncing a little bit, which is the main indication that there's a fish on. They will bounce a little bit more aggressively when a fish is on, but still, that's what I was seeing with this small one right here. But I think that I'm going to continue to throw the rooster tail over by those weeds right where I caught that catfish, and maybe I'll get one on camera this time because I really didn't expect to catch anything over here. The rod on the opposite end is getting hit now. Yep. There's something on there. There we go. Whoa, big fish on. There we go. Huge fish. All right, that was right through the corner of the lip right there. There we go. Another channel catfish. Oh, that's hilarious. I had a fish on one end and then the opposite end. One was on a rooster tail and the other was on some Canadian night crawlers. All right, let's get another bait out there. All right, the night has officially begun. I'm actually gonna go through and reel my rods in a little bit. I'm just gonna readjust everything because I think that the catfish are gonna be a little bit shallower than where I initially placed my baits. I think once the sun sets and I can't see my rods anymore, I'm gonna reposition to all on the shallow end of the pond. That way I can be in one place and see all of them, and I'll just fan them out really far. In retrospect, I definitely should have gotten more bells for my rods, but I just didn't think of it. Normally on the bodies of water that I fish in, there's a 2 rod maximum, sometimes 3, but that leaves 2 with bells, 1 that I watch, so I'm not really used to having this many rods out. That's a fish. That's a fish. That's a fish on the big rod. Big, something really big. Oh no, is this a turtle? Crap. Oh, dang it, it's a turtle. Oh crap. Alright, 1 second while I take care of this. I was doing that time lapse, and as soon as I threw this worm in, Whoa. Got a fish on. There we go. All right, there we go. Catfish number 3. I guess shallow is the way to go. There we go, there we go, fish on. Fish on. All right, there we go. Another small channel catfish. This is the smallest so far. This is another one in the shallowest part of the pond on earthworms, so I guess that's the ticket. I think I might have just missed a fish. Something over there where my biggest rod is thrown out on the other side of the pond is definitely messing with the bait. The only problem is it's the biggest bait that I have. It's a full bluegill, probably about that big, so it would have to be something big to take it. Here we go, here we go. It's so hard not to set the hook. I have circle hooks on all but the outside rods, so the hooks should set themselves. It must just be a really small catfish just nipping at it. Well, that's gonna be it for tonight. I gave it a few more hours and nothing else bit. I can't even get any bluegill for some more fresh bait. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. I had a great time. This was a ton of fun exploring this new pond, and now I know what's out there. So don't forget to subscribe. I've got a lot of fun things coming your way. Like this video if you liked it, share it with someone else who might enjoy it. Thanks for watching.